Thank you for listening to today's episode. Before we jump in, I wanted to tell you about a new exciting program POC is launching for you. Between now and the end of 2022, this program is free because we want to beta test it. This program is going to be a bi-weekly meeting for 1 hour each time that we get together with a small group of other professional organizers so we can learn how to support one another and to help one another with ideas, all of the things that you need when you are an entrepreneur. So this is going to be a program with other women and other professional organizers that can come alongside of you, link arms with you, and get you to where you want to be in your business. So for those of you already listening to the podcast, you get to enjoy it for free at first and help build this program into what you need. So here's how it will work. We will have 3 tiers based on where you are on your entrepreneurial journey because we want to help surround you with other women that are in the same part of the journey you are. You will get accountability, ideas, and a designated time to work on your business bi-weekly. So the 3 tiers are getting started. This is for you if you are still in the idea phase of your business up to the launching of your business. Then the second tier is growth. This is for you if you are in the first year or 2 of your business and are still growing it. Then tier 3 is seasoned, which is for you if you have at least a year or more as a professional organizer and are maybe looking for ways to keep going, but you've been doing this for a while. So if you are interested and you believe that support equals success, then click the link in the show notes or go to proorganizerscoach.com and click the Support Equals Success tab to sign up. We are going to keep these groups small so you can really get the help on your business that you need. So go now and sign up so you don't miss out on what is going to be an amazing program and what I wish I would have had when I was getting started. So now let's get on with today's show. You are listening to the Pro Organizers Coach podcast. I'm Samantha Brown, a professional organizer and business coach. In this podcast, you will learn how to start and scale the organizing business of your dreams. So let's jump in. Welcome back to the Pro Organizers Coach podcast. On today's episode, I have Beth Connor of Frisco Home Organizer in Frisco, Texas. She has been an organizer for 5 years. And in today's episode, we are talking all about how she used to do everything in her business on pen and paper, and then finally decided to go digital with a program called 17 Hats. And make sure to continue to listen towards the end of the episode because we have a deal for you on 17 Hats if that is something you are interested in. So thank you, Beth, for being on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
So first, let's just kind of start with like who you are, how you became a professional organizer, like what got you in the field.
Sure. So I actually started out in a totally different field. After I graduated from college, I was a software engineer until I had kids and stayed home with my kids for a while. And then I was looking to just go back to work, and I knew I didn't want to go back to what I'd done before. And I loved organizing. When I realized that that could be a job, I thought this is definitely for me. So once my kids were back in school and I had a little bit more time, I started my business, and it has just been amazing. I love all the people that I meet. Every job is different. Every client is different. I get to organize and make things beautiful and just really make a difference in people's lives. So I think it's the best job ever. I'm just so happy that I'm able to do it.
I completely agree with everything that you're saying of, when you first start becoming an organizer, at first it gets a little stressful because of course you're building the website and you're trying to find clients and, you're doing all of the things that every entrepreneur has to go through. You've got those growing pains. But once you find your rhythm and once you figure out what type of organizer you are and like kind of how you do your thing, it is amazing. The clients that you meet and the people that you meet and how you feel every day when you get done doing your job of how you know that you've helped people.
Yes, I totally agree. Yeah. And I just want to say to anybody starting out, just to your clients, you are an expert. No matter how many hours or how many clients you've had, you already are probably just more naturally good at organizing than they are. That's why they called you. So just have that confidence and know that you can do it and it's going to be great. And you don't have to know every single thing going in, which I know was a big issue for me. I wanted to have all the information and everything perfect, but just get started and it'll all come together.
Yeah, I've talked about this in a few other episodes of you really just have to jump. Like at some point, no matter how much you know or how little you know or how perfect you think it is or isn't, you could stay in that place forever trying to be quote unquote perfect before jumping. And so, at some point you've just got to choose to jump. And once you do, everything will figure itself out. Like you will find your way through. And other people in the industry are very helpful, like in Facebook groups and in Pro Organizers Coach, we have our Facebook group. You're more than welcome to go there and ask questions. Other organizers want to help other organizers. And so you will figure it out as you go. I promise.
Totally agree. It's just made up of such great people who really just want to help, and we want to help each other and we want to help the clients. So, and a lot of what you do, you really can only learn through experience. So the faster you start getting experience, the faster you're going to start feeling like you know what you're doing.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I tell people all the time that I coach, I'm like, do like a family and friends discount if you feel like you need some practice. And the discount could even be, just enough to like cover your gas or whatever for the day. And then just ask them for some reviews and to be able to do the before and after photos. But it's more about you getting that practice than anything with the friends and family discount. And everybody needs to declutter something and needs to organize something in their house.
Yes, definitely.
Back to like the topic of kind of pen and paper. How did you do everything?
So literally I had just used folders, and I had basically 3 contract documents. So I had what you would call the contract that has all the sort of terms and prices and how everything works. Then I had a photo release, and then I had a liability waiver. So I just set these up on 3 different pieces of paper. I sort of made my own little template, just a Word document that had all of my business information. And then I would just use that anytime I needed to make like a new document. I would use that so it all sort of looked cohesive. It wasn't anything fancy. It was just, it looked professional. It was nice. So I would have those 3 documents. And then when I started my business, it was in the fall, and I was getting everything set up, and I went to Target one day, and they had their back to school clearance, and they had these gray folders for like 5 cents a piece. So I bought this huge stack of gray folders, and I printed out little stickers that had my logo, and I put them on the front of the folders. And then the flaps on the folders had places where you could put business cards. So I'd put a business card into each flap, and then I would put a copy of each of these 3 documents in each flap. So when I would go do a consultation, we would walk around, they would show me everything, we would talk about things, and then we would usually sit down somewhere, and I would get out my little gray folder, and I would take one of the copies out, and we would go over all the documents, and I would have them sign the documents, right there. I liked going over it with them in person because I like to be able to highlight things like my cancellation policy. Things that I didn't actually think about too much when I was starting my business was how disorganized my clients were going to be and how they would just cancel the day up. Sometimes when I'm driving to their appointment and they don't think about it, they're like, oh, I just forgot, I didn't have it on my calendar or whatever. I find that like things like that, if I sit down, I look them in the eye, I explain to them, I have this cancellation policy. If you cancel the morning of, I'm not able to book another client. I typically only have 1 client per day. So then I'm out of work for that day. So I appreciate, as far in advance. And I find that it just goes a long way. People really think about it more before they cancel.
Yeah. And speaking of that, so actually today I had that happen of the client cancel on me. And it's the second time now she has canceled. The first time she did give me like 3 days notice. But today she sent me a text at like 11 p.m. last night stating that she just didn't think she'd be feeling up to it tomorrow and, all of this stuff. So then this morning comes and I'm still in my pajamas and I was taking my son to school. I'd already made other plans to like work on the podcast and, do other things to fill my day. She sends me a text and is like, "Hey, I'm feeling better than I thought I would. Do you still want to come do the session today?" And I was like, "Oh my goodness. No, I'm still in my pajamas." Like,
they don't realize how planned out we might be.
right. Well, and like you said, I do one session per day. And then I set up my podcast recordings for in the afternoon. And so there's not much time in between. And she lives almost an hour from me one way. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah. So there was no way for me to just be like, "Oh, yeah, I'll come on over." Like, no problem.
Yeah. And I know for me, I purchase a lot of products on my client's behalf also. And then they reimburse me. So if I have a client and I have to go purchase a lot of product and then they tell me the morning of, I can't do it for another 2 or 3 weeks, I'm either got to hold on to all that product or return it and then rebuy it. So, things like that, I find it's helpful to actually go over the contract in person, look them in the eye, not necessarily so that I can charge them a cancellation fee, because I honestly rarely actually do. But it's in there and I can, and if I need to, and I have done it before, but it kind of just helps eliminate a few of the issues that I've just come across, which you just kind of figure out as you go along, what those might be.
Yeah. And actually, I do have exactly everything that you're saying. The cancellation fee. I sat down at the consultation with her. We went over the cancellation fee.
Yeah.
The whole thing. It will still happen. Just so you all know, like, especially when it comes to bills, if you are a single mom or you are a single person and all of your bills rely on you, it really is important to try as best you can to stay at least a little bit ahead on your bills.
Yes.
Because there definitely will be, like, the session I was supposed to have today was going to pay my water bill. Well, here we are, and I didn't have my session. So, you've got to think of those things. And so now I'm curious to know a couple things about how you went digital and how it's different. But first, let's talk about what made you go to digital. Like, how did you realize that that was even a thing or that you were even interested in something like that?
Yeah. So basically, just to finish out sort of my system with the pen and paper quickly, once they would sign all the contracts, I would take those signed contracts and I would just take a manila folder and write their name on the tab and put it in my work bag, which it's one that can hold like kind of filing system shape. So I would write their name and I would put all their signed contracts in a folder. I would give them the gray folder with a copy of everything that they signed because I feel like it's important to know what they signed if they need to look back at it, whatever. So I would leave that with them. And then I would just keep their manila folder and anything else that related to that client is I would put in the folder. So if I needed to take measurements to do, find products or what have you, I would write the measurements down on a piece of paper and I would stick it in the folder. And then I had these Post-it notepads. So it was like kind of a 4x6-inch Post-it that had lines on it. And so if they purchased a package, the way I work is you can purchase a package upfront for a certain number of hours. And then it expires after 1 year, which I learned quickly was an important thing to add. And then, if they bought a package, I would just write their name and the date that they bought the package and how many hours. And I would stick it on the left-hand inside of the manila folder. And every time I worked with them, I would write down the date and the times I worked and how many hours it was. So that would just keep up with where they were at in their package hours. And I could always just kind of glance at that whenever I needed to know. So I would also put like product receipts if I had that, if I'd purchased things for them. I'd stick it in the folder. If they wanted a receipt when I donated their items, I would stick that in the folder. So that's basically how it worked. It was really very simple. And it worked really well for me for 3 or 4 years. I didn't switch to this digital right away, but like the shortcomings of my pen and paper were some of the things that I was looking for in a digital system. So some of the things that I had a problem with the pen and paper were, first of all, this beautiful little folder that I created that looked professional and nice. I would go back and I would organize for my clients, and this folder was always just floating around in everyone's houses. Like they didn't know what to do with it. It looked like something they should keep. You know, it seemed important because it's a contract that they had signed, but it didn't really fit like in a hanging file because it was a folder. It would just show up in all kinds of random places. So I would find my folder in the junk drawer or still sitting on the kitchen counter where it was last time we had the consultation or, so I felt like I was creating clutter for my clients. And I always kind of had this sick feeling about that. Like, oh, I want to tell them like, you can just throw this away if you want to, it's fine. And some clients would use it and they would keep track of their hours, you know, as well as me. And they would stick things in it and, you know, they seemed to like it. But generally, I just felt like it was adding more clutter. So I wanted to eliminate that, but I still wanted to make sure that they had a copy of the things that they signed and all of that. And I still wanted to have that copy as well. Because I've actually changed my contract over the years. So it's good to know like, okay, they were at this price or this was the shopping fee that we agreed on, because I've changed it a few times. So it's good to know, to be able to quickly look and see, this is what I need to do for this client.
Yeah, that is super important. Next to each person's name in my phone, the way that I handle that is I put their name and then I put the price because I actually do per session. I don't do like package pricing. It's, you know, a flat rate for a session. It's this many hours and then additional hours with this price and a shopping fee is this other price, you know, type thing. But sometimes you get in there with a client and you either give them a discount or it was before you had upped your price. And so I've quickly learned to make sure to put that little note of what I told them I would charge them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cause you forget too. And, yeah, it's important to have that, especially, you know, if you have long-term clients, which is a great thing to have. I also, in related to, sort of what to charge them, I had created just a paper invoice and I would just fill it out. So if I brought product for them and they paid me back, I would give them an invoice so that they would know exactly what they were paying for. So I would have to, you know, kind of take the receipts, write down everything. It had a place for how many of each of this and what the price of it was. And then I would calculate how much, you know, because they got 10 of them and they were $10. So this is the total for that line. And I would basically have to write all this down at their house at the end of the session and then manually add it up on my phone calculator. So I felt like it was tedious. If they had a lot of different products, it would take a while and it was prone to error. And I don't always want to take the time to redo the math on the whole thing. So I would write out the invoices and then I would just take a picture of them on my phone so that I would have that for when I went back to do my bookkeeping. But that wasn't really the greatest, easiest system either, but I didn't want to copy it. So that was kind of what I did, so that I could leave the invoice with them. Again, like when I took the measurements and notes on paper, sometimes I would like take a picture of that paper because sometimes I'll be out shopping and I might have a little extra time and I could go shop for that client or this might work, but I can't remember the measurements. So I didn't always have all of those pen and paper things with me when I needed them. So that was another reason that I wanted to go digital. And then the final reason was just wanting to expand my business. So should I bring on a team? I felt like this physical folder system was going to be very limiting. I wanted to have something that I could bring people into and they could enter things into, I could enter things into, and wherever we are, we could use it together. So I went looking for a digital system. My business, you know, seemed like, you know, it was definitely doing well every year. It was getting better and better. So I was like, I think it's time to invest in this. So the things I was looking for, number one, was a reasonable cost. You know, I want something that's great, but I also not knowing how great it's going to be or how important it is. And My pen and paper isn't terrible, so I wasn't looking to like spend too much on something. I wanted it to be reasonable. And I also wanted something that would work for me and my price point and what I needed right now. But should my business expand, I didn't want to have to redo all of this in a bigger, better system. So something that sort of could scale up with me was also important to me. I wanted to go in and put all of the things in that I had already done. So I basically digitized my paper folders when I started with this. So it was a task to do and not something that I would want to have to redo again a few years later. So I just really I wanted that. I wanted to be able to store everything, basically everything I was keeping in the little folder on a digital system that I could access anywhere. I wanted to be able to access it from my phone or my computer, anytime, anywhere. So I also wanted to be able to keep track of the hours of the packages and the expiration dates, because that was something that my paper system was really important to. And I would often get texts from clients when I was out saying, how many hours do I have left? And I'd have to say, hold on, I'll have to tell you later today when I get home and look. So I wanted something that could just tell me right on the spot what that is. And then I also wanted to replace my invoicing so that I didn't have to do it on the paper, and something that would be more professional looking and just quicker and easier and less prone to mathematical errors. Let's see. I thought sending appointment reminders, I wanted that. I also just wanted to automate as much of the client experience as possible. Because when you get busier, you'll notice like just trying to juggle and remember all the clients that you've got coming up and the projects and what you said and this and that. Just a place where I could put all the notes and everything. And if they needed a reminder, I could set it up and it would just go. Like while I'm sleeping, things could be happening.
On the appointment reminders, what have you found for your clients works best? Like how many reminders they need for their session?
It depends. It kind of depends on the client. You kind of learn this. Some don't need any reminders. Some want to work with you regularly. So it's like every Thursday at 9:30 and they just remember that because that's part of their week. Generally, I try to text or email. 17 Hats does mostly through email. So I set up appointment reminders to go out the day before. So my cancellation policy is 24 hours in advance. So I try to send it out a little ahead of that 24 hours so that if they do need to cancel, they could do so within my policy still. I think if you send it out too early, they'll say, yeah, that's fine. And then they'll forget again. So
yeah, because I'm still at this place because, like I said, I don't do packages. And so every week is completely different for me. And some of my clients need 10 sessions and others only literally need 1 or 2. I have gotten in the habit of on Sundays when I'm getting my week ready, I go ahead and send a quick text of, hey, I just wanted to remind you your appointment is, on this day at this time. And then I also the day before send a text. Because I've learned, like you said, even if on Sunday they say, okay, sometimes you get to the day of and they've forgotten or something's happened with a kid or, life just happens. And so, yeah, I've gotten to where I do it the Sunday of before for each client that week and then the night before for the next day.
And sometimes I have a client where I'm like, okay, I know that they might not actually, this might not happen. And I have another client who's wanting to book that day. So I might just text them, hey, is Thursday still going to work? And they'll be like, oh, actually, no, it's not going to. I'm like, okay. And then I can book another client. So you kind of just learn your clients too. And in 17 Hats, I actually have it set up so that, let's say that I'm doing a pantry. I can set up them a specific type of reminder for the job that I'm doing, because there's certain tips that I want to give on certain spaces. So if I'm doing a pantry, I want to tell them, go ahead and do your shopping for the week so I know what you have, and make sure you have all the counters as clear as possible because I'm going to be taking everything out and putting them on the counter. So I can set up specific email reminders that actually have helpful information so they can be getting ready for the session as well.
That's awesome. Like that's a really, really important thing with what we do, because every room is completely different of what we need from them before we start working with them.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's amazing. With 17 hats, the other thing that we were talking about that I really like about it is the different levels. So like you were saying, it can grow with you. For one, they have the free option to where you can just see if it's something that works for you. And especially when you're first just trying it out to see if that's something that works for you. But then I also saw that they have like level 1, level 2, level 3. And so if you don't care to just kind of go over like real quickly kind of the difference in the levels and then kind of maybe what you chose that seems to be working best for you.
Sure. Yeah. So, first of all, I did a free trial, several different programs, including 17 hats. So, if you want to do the free trial, you get access to the whole thing and for the duration of the free trial. I would definitely say that the free option is great for anyone because you can at least add your contacts and projects to the program. So you can use 17 hats on your computer, on a website, or there is a great app. So I keep that on my phone. You can get access through the free trial. And then for the free option, there's actually quite a bit you can do, and you can get up to 3 invoices per quarter included for free. Level 1 also adds different documents that you can send to your client, like quotes, contracts, questionnaires. I know a lot of organizers like to send a questionnaire to their client or even prospective clients. So those are great. And you get up to 20 documents per month in level 1. It also integrates your outgoing email. So any emails that you send to a client will automatically show up in their client profile. And you can always go and look and say, oh, yeah, I did send that email to them. It also has the 17 hats branding in level 1. So it doesn't take their name off of things. You still have your own branding on everything that gets sent out, which I will say looks really professional. And I think it just takes everything up a notch to kind of have your branding and have it be kind of seamless. So in level 2, they do take off the 17 hats branding. Level 2 is actually what I use right now. So you get up to 35 documents per month. So that would be contracts. That does not count invoices, I don't think. But contracts, questionnaires, things like that. You can also schedule out emails to be sent to your clients. And then it integrates incoming and outgoing emails. So even emails that they send to you will show up in their client profile. And then it has workflows in level 2, which are so great for automating. So you can set up workflows for all kinds of things. I have a workflow. If someone buys a package, it automatically sends them an email saying, thank you for buying a package. Here is your invoice receipt, and your package will expire on this date. So they have that information, and I didn't do anything. It just automatically did that for me because I set it up that way. And then level 3, you get unlimited documents. You can have a client portal where you can put things into the portal and your client can actually access them themselves, and they can do the same. There are more advanced workflows, and you can have up to 3 users. And they have a great graphic on their website as well that gives like all the detail about what each level will do.
Point being is no matter where you are in your organizing business, this is definitely something that can help automate your systems. Whether it's level 1, 2, or 3, you can find something that works for you without having to have all of the extra stuff that you may not need just yet. But as soon as you need it, you can up your level. And then, like you said, not have to switch everything over to some other system, which is a task.
Yes, absolutely.
So Beth, as of right now, has a limited time offer for 50% off if you go ahead and do an annual subscription with one of the levels. If you are listening to this later on and that 50% off code does not work, we are also going to put in the show notes her code that always gives you 10% off. And then one other quick question. How does this work at tax time? Like, is it very easy to bring your stuff over for your accountant or to like QuickBooks or something?
Yes, I think depending on the level, it will integrate with QuickBooks if that is what you're using. There's a whole bookkeeping section and it will keep track if you do all your invoicing through there. You can mark the types of things you are invoicing and it will keep track of that. It will make reports for you. It can tell you how much you collected for sales tax, if that's something you need to know. It really can integrate a lot. Mine also, I have it set up to integrate with my Square account. The client can pay right in the program.
So before, when you would do the consultation, you would sit down and go over each paper with them. Do you still do that and just show them on your phone the invoice? How do you have that conversation now?
Yes. So like I said, it was very important that I still have that face-to-face conversation going over it. And a lot of the programs, they would have it where you could set up a contract, but then it had to be emailed to them and then they had to sign it on their end and send it back, which I did not want because I wanted to literally stick it in their face and say, please sign this.
Right.
Because if I said, oh, sign it after I leave, they would forget.
Yes.
Which is reasonable. 17 Hats has a way to do that. So I create a contract and I combined my 3 documents into a single contract. And I put the option of checking about the photo consent in there. So they'll check that and then I can show it as a live view. So I could either do that on my phone or I could do it on an iPad, or I have a small laptop that has a touch screen. So I usually will do that. And it's basically like showing them a piece of paper. And we go over it. And then at the bottom, we click it and they type their name, which serves as their signature. And
Perfect.
Then as soon as they do that, it emails it to them. So they have the copy. This was one of the few that did meet that specific requirement for me. One more quick thing I want to highlight that I just think is so amazing with this is the invoicing. It has a way for you to set up products and services in the system. So you can put an internal name for the product and then what's going to be actually displayed and the price. And then if it's taxable or not, you can even add a photo of the product. So you can save all of that. So if you're always using the same things, or even just every time you add something, you can save it in the system and then you just pull it up and add it to invoices. And it's so simple. And you can set up different tax rates. So I use one for the actual sales tax rate, but I also set up extra tax rates for my shopping fee, which is a percentage, is how I'm currently doing it. So I have that and I can choose even by line or by entire invoice if that shopping fee will apply. So I can do the sales tax and I can add the shopping fee. I wouldn't add the shopping fee if I were collecting for hours or packages. So I would unclick it for that line item, but I could still have it for the bins I used. So it's really versatile. And I know that there's a lot more that I'm not even using to its fullest, but I have found that it seems like it's pretty versatile and they have great customer service. If there's something you're wanting it to do, they might be able to help you, or they can put it on a list of features that have been requested.
Wow, that is awesome. Because yeah, it is hard to find any business nowadays that you can that even have customer service that you can speak to, much less be willing to put it on a list of, oh, if it doesn't do this. I mean, that's amazing for them because that means that people are wanting that thing.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And, as an organizer, I know, when we go to get insurance or when we go to half the time even explain to people what we do for a living, it's still such a new industry that it's hard to find these certain little things that fit just what we do exactly. And so I'm so thankful and so grateful that you have offered us this code and that you've told us about this, because I think this is a phenomenal thing for anyone that is growing their organizing business. Are you on like Instagram, Facebook, all the things?
Yes, I am.
Perfect. So all of those will be in the show notes. And then that way you guys can show her some love also. Thank you, Beth. We appreciate you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
You have been listening to the Pro Organizers Coach podcast. Go to the show notes to find all of the links mentioned in this episode and hit that subscribe and automatic download button so you don't miss a single thing. Thanks for listening.